What's up, guys? Welcome to the Walk On Warrior podcast, where we prepare young student athletes for next level success. I'm your host, Coach Z, and listen, we got a fantastic guest on for today. Super excited. Entrepreneur, gym owner, MMA fighter, politician, and a fitness enthusiast, and most importantly, he's got the ultimate job of a lifetime of being a parent. And we're super excited to have him on. Steve Orosco, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I look forward to this. Coach Z.
That's it, man. Hey, so before we dig in, I always like to throw something off of what we actually are going to talk about. But so when I go on Barstool, when I go on the Food Channel, I'm a big food guy, or just a podcast, I always hear about New Haven pizza. What is up with New Haven and being like the mecca of pizza? What is that all about?
Yeah, dude, it's by far the best pizza in America. And it's funny. So I've been with my wife for 17 years, and she started the big three pizza places in New Haven are Modern Pizza, Sally's Pizza, and Pepe's Pizza. She's at Modern Pizza when she was like 14 years old, all the way up until we moved to California. She became a stay-at-home mom when we had my son. But we moved back to Connecticut when my son was 5, and she wanted to go back to work. So she would try to go back to Modern. It didn't happen. So she actually works at Sally's Pizza. So she runs Sally's Pizza, and that's the Barstool's Pizza. That's where Dave Portnoy gave the highest rating ever. So I don't even like Sally's anymore because my wife will bring that shit home like every other day, to the point where me and my son like do not bring that pizza home anymore. It doesn't even taste good.
That's really funny, man. Shout out New Haven, shout out Sally's. But it was funny because I that's something about me. I'm really big into nutrition, big into food.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about this, but me being a strength coach as well. As weird as it sounds, you always talk about performance foods, but I'm always on the Food Network. And you ever notice that when you go to gyms, there's the TVs are on and it's always Food Network?
Always. That's how they make their money.
Keep
You
people
watch
on
this, you
those
watch.
machines, man.
Yeah, just watch the Super Bowl. Every ad is like Doritos or Pizza Hut because they want you to get the craving and order the food.
Yeah.
Smart.
That's super funny, man. But listen, let's start this off, Steve. So tell the viewers a little bit kind of your backstory. From when you're a young kid all the way through till now, kind of just a little tidbits of your life.
Yeah, tidbit. So I'm a New England kid, born and raised in Newport, Rhode Island. I always say the sport of wrestling is what built me. That's literally my childhood. I went to Pace University in New York City, majored in finance. Ended up worked on Wall Street, got recruited by a firm in Connecticut, which is what landed me here. Went back to school. I got an MBA and an MS. And during all of that, just corporate America wasn't for me. I just wasn't that guy. I'm always a very free thinker, carve my own path. So during that time, I was training in MMA, a place called Ultimate MMA here in Connecticut. I ended up quitting the industry, moving to San Diego, California, where I turned pro in 2000. I want to say 11. I went 8-0 as a pro. Got the opportunity to fight the number one kid in Melbourne, Australia. So I flew out there. I lost. I came back. I was 34 years old. My son was 1. My body was beat to shit, and I was like, I don't have it in me anymore to go through another fight camp. I couldn't do it. So thing about having an MBA is they really teach you how to, be a consultant, how to go into a company, find the bottlenecks, and make them more profitable. And for me, it was, what can I do to stay in the sport that I love so much? And at the time, it was 2 options. It was either open up your own gym, right? You become your own coach, build your own fight team, or start my own MMA league. So 2015, I started Smash Global. So now Smash MMA. We've had 10 shows. I'm gonna start doing them here in Connecticut, and I just do them different. When I was fighting, I always said, you talk about rural areas. MMA is very NASCAR, gritty, tap out T-shirt, Bud Light crowd, which I love. But You know, boxing, which has had centuries of history and tradition and heritage and build up, it's more Formula One. Like people will go in their fur coat and a gown, they go to Vegas, they make a whole weekend out of it. Now I was like, how do I get that crowd to come watch MMA live? So I just kind of changed the model a little bit, where it's black tie and gown only. You're sitting at a table like at a wedding. Instead of a dance floor, there's a cage in the middle. 250 people is the maximum. Tickets are 500 to 1,000. And I just invite the who's who, and we honor people that have made an impact in combat sports or film. So I've had the opportunity to honor people like Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Freddie Roach, Steven Seagal, Mel Gibson, Lou Ferrigno. So all people that were heroes of mine as a kid. And that's the beautiful thing about being in Los Angeles. You have access to so many people, and you
Yeah,
do something like that, and like, oh my God, I gotta go. So they would all come. It was an amazing thing. So now I'm in Connecticut. I'm gonna start doing shows here. I also have a gym here in Milford, Connecticut as well.
that's awesome. Yeah, so let's talk about your upbringing. So
Yeah,
you get started. I know you were mentioning that you wrestled. You were a competitive wrestler.
yeah,
With the Walk On Warrior, we're trying to target those young student athletes as young as possible. They come from those tough backgrounds, maybe don't have enough, maybe underappreciated, maybe undersized.
yeah,
Just like you, I know that, from getting to know kind of your story, and obviously I would talk a little bit about it, but coming from a single parent home, we have 15 million single parent homes out there today,
wow,
right? And that's from 2023. So, 2023, beginning of the year. And so really it's all about being able to be relatable too, right? Being
absolutely,
real and relatable. And so with that being the case, you're going to be lacking in some areas. It's just the fact, right? Whether it's knowledge of how to get to the next level, if that's your dream, or just inspiration, or also on top of that, just being underappreciated, right? So if you don't have the resources, coaches at the next level, they're not going to be pursuing you unless
yes.
they come and see you in person. But like I told you before, me growing up in a rural area, it's just not going to happen.
New
So
England's, and not to cut you off, just to add
yeah,
on that, I'm in New England. It works the same exact way because you're in New England. The biggest school in all of New England is probably you have UConn, maybe BU, and those aren't even like major D1 schools. So if you're a great athlete here, no one's coming here to find you. No one from Florida or Texas or Penn State, any monster school at the D1 level is coming to New England. You have to leave New England and to get noticed. So it's very difficult. So we don't have the resources here either.
yeah. So talk about your upbringing. I know that you had, like I said, you had mentioned that you grew up in a single parent home,
Yeah.
and talk about growing up in that type of scenario, right?
Mhm.
And how you were able to overcome that situation mentally, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously physically you've got that, you've got the tools to go and be competitive and do whatever, but being able to overcome it. Because like for me, for example, mom's not always home, right? She's off working, she's busting her butt. I know your mom, she went and got her master's or bachelor's, Yale, and doing all those different things, which is incredible in itself because you don't have any time, especially you have multiple siblings.
Yeah.
But definitely talk about that and the resilience and what you go through being in a single parent household.
Yeah, I really do attribute all of my success to the sport of wrestling because it's not a sport that you can half-ass. It's not a sport where you can, you're so accountable to everything that you do. And the thing about wrestling is like it becomes such a brotherhood, and you all are accountable for each other, like you're a Navy SEAL team. So there's no time to make excuses or be a victim or be upset about any situation. So that's why I always tell people wrestling, I think every kid should wrestle just for just for the mental toughness that it gives you, compared to other sports. Because in other sports, you really rely on your teammates, right?
Yeah.
Whereas wrestling, you do it, it's all you and only you on that mat. So it's a way to, you know, My parents, when they got divorced, I was 12. So for me, it was a tough time because me and my father were close. But that's when you're going through puberty. That's like when you're becoming a man. That's when you're like going through those. You want to punch the wall, and you don't know why testosterone is making you feel like this. When you're angry, that's what kids go through.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my father around to like tell me that wasn't okay to go punch a wall when you're upset. But I had wrestling to take out my anger. I had wrestling to release all that tension and feelings that every boy goes through as a teenager. And I think that's why sports are so important because sports gets that out of you. All these kids that don't play sports, all those emotions get bottled up inside. They don't know how to release those emotions and they do stupid shit,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And the more rural or poor the area, the worse off it is because you're doing even more stupid shit that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. And so when you're going through high school and you're involved in wrestling, um, you know, or in any sport, you can get a part of the wrong crowd, right? We can also
Yes.
talk about that too. So the good news is, if you're in a small area, everybody knows you. It takes a village to raise somebody or raise
Yeah,
a kid. It really does. I mean,
I agree with
it's
that.
right because yeah, the parents or parent is your first teacher, but at the same time, you also have like me, you got the coach, you've got the neighbor down the street, you've got
Yeah.
teachers, you got all these different people out there that definitely. So it's really important. And I remember you mentioning, on a show that I'd seen, you were something that really stood out to me. You're talking about that mentorship, and you're talking about your friends and your friend group and who you are around. Because when I ended up getting to Utah State and playing at Utah State, there is a horror story. There's many horror stories. I don't know if there's a statistic out there. Maybe that's something I should do, and it sounds bad, but
Yeah.
there's a good percentage of guys in every single recruiting class. I would say probably 10% that don't graduate, let alone make it to year 2, 3, 4, because they're finally away from whatever.
Yeah.
They don't have that strong, home life or whatever. So they try to cling on to anything that can fill that void per se. And some of the kids are partying, some of the kids are having a good time. And then all of a sudden you get too caught up in that. And then boom, your dream of becoming a Division I athlete is gone.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
always
true.
talk about the fact that, everybody talks about going D1. If you talk to a young kid, they all have the dreams of, well, you ask them, you say, well, what do you want to do? What's your goal? I want to be D1. I want to be D1. But do you know what that actually entails? Right?
Truth.
Do you know what it is from the moment you open your eyes to where you actually are closing your eyes at night? The grind from point A of the day to point B,
Yeah.
C, D, E. And not only that, but year round. You're talking about a program. When you get locked in, that contract signed, you are from the moment you get there, you make a choice, right? And so a lot of kids won't make that choice
Yeah.
in a positive way. And so talk a little bit about your upbringing, you're growing up in your situation, single parent home, and your mentorship, your friend group, who you're around, how important that is moving forward.
Yeah, it's extremely important. And then let me just also touch on something you just said that was great.
Yeah.
The problem with D1 is there's so many kids. So when you're in high school, the kids that go D1, they're the kids that are breaking records in high school, right? They're like the best kid in the state or top 10 kids in the state. So they're killing everyone at the local level. Once you get to D1, every single kid on that team is an all-star from high school. So the ones who didn't take high school sports seriously and play the X's and O's, like they're the ones who have the biggest problem adjusting because they just got into D1 based on raw talent because they were so much more gifted. It's no different than the adolescents, the youth. Like for example, my son's a great example. He's really good at soccer. Wrestling's his sport, but he's really good at soccer. So in rec soccer, dude, the kid was scoring like 5, 6 goals a game where I would have to take him out. Like, you're not playing the fourth quarter. And now he's doing Jingo, which is like club soccer, which is basically like all the best kids in the whole entire region on one team. Now he like scores 1 goal a whole season. He doesn't even play offense anymore. He's not a striker. Now he plays defense because he's a bully. So like it's a completely different game. So that's why I look at high school as like rec in comparison to D1, where it's every kid is a monster on that field. And there's a lot of kids that can't handle that pressure. It's like, man, I was killing in high school. I'm smashing all these dudes. Now I'm in college and I'm actually just equal to everybody. And a lot of kids can't handle that because they're so used to getting by on talent and talent alone.
Yeah. Well, and it's also another thing where kids get involved, so they get to that level and then they don't reinvent themselves,
Yeah.
right? So we're talking about right now, we're talking about everything that you've known growing up from the moment that you were basically 0 until 18 at your high school, and then you're the top dog of the high school. You know everybody, you know the smells, you know the drive to school, whatever, you know everything about it, and you're so comfortable 4 years into it, and now you get thrust back into being a freshman again. And now
Yes.
you're trying to reinvent yourself. It's the same as going in and changing jobs or meeting somebody new. There's a process of actually getting to know that person or that place, that thing. And a lot of kids don't go through the grind, like you're saying. They don't
Yeah.
fail. They don't go through, like wrestlers learn that combat right away, whether it's the mental side of it, because you're already
Yes.
in deep waters, right? And the mental game is everything, right? The deep waters, but knowing right from wrong, going from the situation you were in to already knowing going into being a freshman that you're going to have to hold pads. You're going to have to be humble. You're going to have to build character.
Yep.
Character is more than just the definition, right? There's so
Yeah.
many avenues with that character. And for me, to kind of give a little tidbit of what happened with me, I went on campus and had the mindset of, listen, I don't care whatever is thrown at me. I'm just going to make an adjustment to whatever happens, because everybody on that campus, I had 6 running backs ahead of me. All 6 of them got hurt in a spring practice, right? All 6 of them. Our coach, basically, it was the last drill of it, said, hey, who else do we got? And, you know, me coming, this is literally my first practice. And the coach, who do we got? I got some guys that just throw this white kid, long hair from the West Coast out there. And sure enough, he says, I hate to tell you this, but you're getting the ball in this first play. And I'm like, you know what? This is what I'm here for.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? I can make a choice and say, you know what? Something could happen bad, something could happen positive, whatever, but I'm going to make whatever happen, right? Whether it's good or it's bad, I'm just going to take it, run with it, go through the door. And I'm telling you right now, man, it was the lead right, something like that. Boom,
Sure. Yeah.
the Red Sea parts. 15, 20 yards down the field, and now I made my name. So kids have to understand. And then the next play, actually, the same thing happened. But the thing is a lot of times you have these kids that are around bad kids or whatever that aren't going to inspire them, not going to motivate them, not going to push them to be better, so that you can reinvent yourself in those tough times. Now, keep in mind, I went out of state. So now on top of where I was, you know, as a player, whatever, but now I'm out of state. I've never been in 30 knot winds coming out of the canyon in a 40, 50,000 person stadium, right? With completely different colors.
Yep.
Everything is different. And you have to be able to adapt. You got to be a chameleon. And a lot of kids, they have a hard time with that, and they end up failing. They end up getting drugs, whatever, get booted out.
One of my I have a close friend. How do I say this? I'm not going to mention his name. Not
Right.
he might, probably won't see this, but he was the kid who's a hometown hero. He broke
Yeah.
every record in high school. Got a full ride as a quarterback to play for Delaware State. I believe it. I don't know if it's 1AA or if it's Division 1. He only lasted like 1 semester. He quit and he left and came back home. He never left Connecticut. It was like the first time he ever left Connecticut. Had a high school sweetheart from when he was like 15 years old. Went to Delaware, and it just wasn't for him. And he came back, and gave up football, and he went to work for his father that owns I think it was a paving company. And that was it. Now he owns his own like oil delivery service. But it just goes to show a lot of kids like yourself, like you just said, they leave home for the first time. They're like, holy shit, like this is crazy. And I miss my home. And, being homesick is a real thing. Like you're going to be uncomfortable. And the seriousness of D1 compared to high school, dude, high school sports looking back is fun. There's no real pressure. Like that's like the best time of your life. I tell these
Yeah.
high school kids that now. I'm like, dude, you're going to D1 play sports, dude. You're gonna miss high school. Your best memories are gonna be high school sports. I promise you. So enjoy it while you can because it's about to get serious, very serious.
Yeah. So talk about influences. So you're
Yeah.
growing up and you're with friends, you're having a good time, you're playing sports, you're doing things like that. Were there some influences that really that you look back on that really shaped you moving forward in your life? The reason I bring that up is because we're talking about friends and people you're around.
Yeah.
You've been successful and things that you've done, but you can always look back on certain things. And so when we're talking to young student athletes, it's like there's always going to be one or two people in your life, whether you decide to accept it, right? Take it and say, you know what? I'm going to ask them more questions. I'm going to spend more time around them, or I'm not, right? The majority of kids will say, he's an old guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about, right? We're all boneheads, at the time. But were there any influences and mentors that really shaped you? And what was it that they said or did that, really helped shape your movement forward?
Yeah, I would have to let me think about this. You know, Put me on the spot. Let me give you one example. So when I was in high school, I volunteered. So, I had we had like a student body office, and they were looking for volunteers for different things. And I was like, yeah, my mom asked me, I'm sorry, because we got like one of those letters in the mail. She said, hey, Steve, you should do this volunteer. I said, okay, let's do it. So I signed up for it. And it was for a parent and child together to go do something. So my mom wanted to do it. I said, okay. So don't even, this is the craziest thing. So we pick a couple that was an older couple. It was a woman who had Alzheimer's. Like she couldn't remember anything. And her husband was blind. So she needed help and he needed someone to read the mail for him. So we'd go over their house once a week for the whole year. She would kind of take care of her. I would read him his mail. Would you fucking believe it? This guy wrestled his whole entire life. High school, college, army, everything. And I was like, so we like connected so on a whole nother level. And every time I would go over, he didn't care about the meal. He just wanted to talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm talking to this guy, he's like 80 something years old. I'm literally 15. And I'm like, wow, like the amount of impact wrestling had in this guy's life. And he's like reliving his life through me right now, his glory days. And I'm like, wow, this is my sport. So that was probably number one. That was like a big thing that still is in my heart, you know? And then every summer I went to Dan Gable's wrestling camp. And that was the first time I was introduced to wrestling people from outside of New England. So you go to Iowa, you're there for 3 weeks away from your family. You're in the Iowa dormitories. And it was ruthless. I mean, dude, you got kids from Florida, Iowa, Pennsylvania, the best kids in the country going to camp, no parents. You're a teenager, you're in dormitories. And I got my ass whooped every single day. Like I thought I was pretty good until I went and wrestled kids from around the country. And I was like, wow, I'm really not that good. So that also propelled me to really push harder because you start to see other places like, wow, like these kids are way better. They're more talented. They started earlier. They're better programs, more resources. So I think those are the two biggest, differentiators. I mean, I don't want to get all cliche and talk about my high school wrestling coaches, you
Yeah.
know. Um, they always have an impact on your life, but those are the,
Yeah.
the two like defining moments in high school where it was a realization, yo, if you want to take wrestling seriously, you gotta leave home.
Yeah. Well, I always think about some of those, we're talking about cliche, some of those movies like Rudy or whoever, they've always got a friend. They've always got one person that truly believes in them. And I think
Yeah.
if a young student athlete says, you know what, I'm interested in following this dream of going, it doesn't have to be D1, right? It doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
highest level, but go and pursue the next level of some capacity because it's a small percentage that make it that far.
Yeah.
But there's always somebody that believes in you. And I think a lot of times we take for granted that one person. It's always somebody really close. I get it, it's your mom or whoever, but there's always somebody, it could be a friend, whoever, but you really have to take that serious because all it takes is one person. RIP, one of my most favorite athletes, or MMA guys, Evan Tanner.
Yeah.
Um, he I've met him one time, but he left an impact on me in the fact that towards the end of his career and end of his life, he really started pursuing a quote, and it was, or phrase, I guess, the power of one, and that it only takes one person to change the world. And in this instance, it takes only one friend or
Yeah.
one voice to change your world, to change your life. And not only that, but then also if you become a positive role model, then other people see you. Um, and I think that's really, when we're talking about mentors, it doesn't have to be somebody that's of a
Yeah.
certain age, right?
Yeah.
You could actually be mentored, or you could be influenced by a friend. You could be influenced by somebody. Listen, man, I get more influence, seriously, by people that go into other professions. You being an entrepreneur, that's something I strive to, I've never done that before. And I'm blown away, or I'm blown away by somebody who's the engineer over here that builds buildings or whatever, things that I can't do. Right. So
Yeah.
you just never know where that's going to come from. And it's I think we overlook that. I think that's something
Yeah.
that's really powerful, something that's really, really important. I also am blown away by two-parent households, right?
Yeah. I know.
Like it's so certain things are so foreign today. It's time to start coming right back to where it began and where it should be,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed.
So, with these young kids, it's like out the lens that they see today, you see it from ESPN, you see it from all I don't know. I don't get myself in trouble, but when you're dealing with all these pro athletes and stuff, you're looking at an image of something that is um, not from the core. It's not real. That's why people that you're around, those are the real people. Those are the
Truth.
people that know you right now. Those are the people that'll get on a plane tomorrow and come watch your first game when you told them on Friday, hey, they're telling me I'm starting. And now they get on a plane Saturday morning to watch you play,
Yep.
right? Only takes one. And that's
Truth.
something that can prop you up. And there will be more. But unless you are vulnerable to meeting other people in other areas, other avenues, whether it's MMA, all that, it's people need to really dig into that, right? So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, even for me, like I never even thought about it until you just said it. But even like my circle of friends in high school, like my best friend. So I had a high school sweetheart. Her best friends had a high school sweetheart. His name was Ron Casper. He lived in San Diego too. He's another reason why I ended up going out there because he was already there teaching boxing. Long story short, he played football in college. He was all state, ran a 4.28 40, ran
whoa,
a 10.8, no, a 10.2 or a 10.200 state
whoa,
champ. Did that in college too. My best friend in high school was a starting quarterback, also in starting quarterback, starting guard, played college basketball. My brother, 2 years older than me, also got a college scholarship. He played running. No, I'm sorry, not running back, receiver and defensive back. So I was always surrounded by athletes, more so like football, people in football. I hated football. I tried it. I fucking hated it. I tried Pop Warner. I did it for like 2 weeks. After the first week of like hard hitting drills, I'm like, nah, this isn't for me. Nope.
well, You can tell the difference. I'll just tell you this. You know the difference between a football player that wrestles or
Yeah.
a wrestler that plays football. Way different. It's a
Yeah.
completely different deal because you're used to that grip, that hand-to-hand combat, and you also have that the mental game,
Yep.
to go above and beyond. There's deep waters that you got to go into, man, for that sport. And so, but you're talking about these mentors and those people that will follow you to hell and back. They probably have already done that. And I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, and your surroundings, and yeah, that's extremely, like I said, super important, super valuable, because when I talk to kids, say a kid comes to me, say he didn't get a scholarship, then whatever, I'll sit down with them and just talk to them about their road. And they always will tell me one thing or another of all these horror stories. And I don't know if you know this, but there's what we call bounce backs in, at the collegiate level. A kid will go somewhere, then bounce back, and then have
Okay.
to regain his pride, glory, whatever, on the field, off the field, academics, mentality, off-season program, and then go again. Because we were talking about this before, growing up, some kids will have everything just go their way, and they'll end up being a 5-star, 4, 3, whatever star, and then a school will recruit them, UConn. They go to the school, screw up, come back, right? They do have another opportunity, right? Most kids
Got it.
don't know that. They don't understand there's alternate options, and we won't get into that too much, the JUCO route. But I talked to them about that, and it's just really interesting because these young student athletes, they don't understand that if they don't have the knowledge, they don't have at least the information going into what they think they're going into, to know what they actually are going into, their success rate is going to be that much higher.
Yeah.
And then
You
we'll
know, every so I don't train kids so much anymore because of my time. I still train three. It's funny because all three of them, they're all in prep school. They're all literally going D1. One's going to play baseball at BC. Another one's going to wrestle at Brown. And another one is a national champion. She's a girl, so she'll wrestle somewhere in college, wherever she wants. She made the U.S. Olympic team too. The common denominator between all three of those kids in prep school, their fathers are so present. They bring them to every practice, like myself. They bring them to every training session, and they really understand the importance. So they're literally giving these kids all the information. The kids that don't have a father pushing them and being their like protector and provider is is massive. Like you have to have that because moms don't get it. Because if me and my wife got divorced tomorrow, and it was just her and my son in this house, my son would not be as successful when it comes to wrestling because she'll bail him out every time. He doesn't want to go to practice, no problem. You don't want to do this, it's okay. Oh, you're not feeling good, okay, because mothers are nurturers. That's what they're supposed to do. Whereas fathers are like, yo, you got to suck it up. Like we're committed. You got to go.
yeah,
Okay, dad. They won't even hesitate. So that's why like the two-parent household is so important. And
yeah.
wrestling moms are crazy. If there's any wrestling moms watching this, I love you. I love you, ladies, because you guys are all savage. But the fathers are the ones that really instill those values when it comes to all the preparation.
Yeah. Great segue. That was the next topic. That was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was
Oh,
because so you go from mentors. So let's actually go back. So now we're going to talk from the parent's standpoint, you being a parent, and you have a young child that's going through this process, and obviously you're raising your young son. And so what is it as a parent that you are looking for when it comes to this whole experience, this journey of going from how old is your son?
he's 10.
He's 10. So he's got another 7, 8 years
Yep.
going through the development process, junior high, high school, potentially move on. And, if that's up to what he's wanting to do. So from a parent standpoint, um, let's say he does want to be a next level athlete, right?
Yep.
So what are you doing as a parent to instill certain, instill certain values Are there certain specific things that you really want him to pay attention to? Do you want him to, it's stuff like, put him in a situation to overcome failure? As a parent, what are some of those things that you're looking to dig into that are really cornerstone to him being successful, not only for high school, but beyond high school?
Yeah, it's really about putting in the work, and being around those who are better than you. So a great example is like wrestling. So he started wrestling when he was 5, and then COVID happened, and wrestling here in Connecticut was shut down for almost 3 years because there was no, contact. It was actually 2 years. So when school started opening back up, I didn't put him back in wrestling. I wanted to wait for him to be ready, and I told him that. I said, Jax, listen, when you're wanting to wrestle again, you let me know, but I'm not going to push you because wrestling is a sport. You can't half-ass. You either all in or you're not. um, because it's also a sport where kids, they just wrestle for one season. But the kids that are really good are wrestling all year round. So you have to wrestle 4 seasons a year. So he finally got to the point where he was like, Daddy, yeah, I want to wrestle again. I was like, fuck yes, let's go. We're ready. So,
Yeah.
he's in the rec program that was local and, smashing all the kids, because we wrestle a little bit at home. So I said, Jax, I said, listen, do you really want to take this serious? And he's like, yes. So I brought him to Team Tugman. Now, Team Tugman is an hour away from me. So to think about the inconvenience of me driving an hour to practice during rush hour, being at practice for 2 hours, an hour back, that's 4 hours. It's a big commitment. So I started doing it, and I'm at practice every day. I'm helping coach, which forces me to be there. And it's just, if you're a parent and you want your kid to excel, they're not going to excel without you. It's a fact. It's the same thing with, I'm going on a tangent, but every parent, because every parent can relate to this, every parent wants their kid to get straight A's. We all know that. But what are you doing as a parent to ensure your kid gets straight A's? Like I sit at the table with my son every single night and I do his homework with him, make sure he understands it so he gets straight A's. Most parents aren't doing that. Like, he either gets or he doesn't, or they just assume he's going to get good grades. It doesn't work like that. Sports are the same way. Do you want your kid to be good at soccer or not? Difference between sending your kid to rec soccer, where there's one good kid on a team, two pretty good kids, and 5 kids that just want to pick grass, or you do travel soccer where every kid is good. And
Yeah.
most parents just want to do the bare minimum. And it's a fact because let's be real, for your kid to excel in anything is excuse my language, a fucking inconvenience. It
Yeah.
literally, I got businesses to run, but nothing is more important than his success. People are like, oh, I want to have a big house and nice cars and provide for my kid. Okay, but your kid doesn't care about that stuff. Your kid doesn't care if he lives in a 1,000 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot house. He doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So if you want to really give back to your kid, you got to sacrifice as much time as you can in their development so they can become a successful adult. And I see all these kids, man, and it's so easy. These kids don't work hard. These parents are not involved. If you really put in 100% effort on your kid probably will go to college for free and play a sport. It's simple math.
Yeah. Well, one of the 7 C's is caring. And when you're
Yeah.
talking about this, it's when I think of the word caring and I put it together with parents, the question that I always ask myself is, do parents actually care about their kids?
Yeah.
Right? That may seem like kind of a silly question to ask, but if you actually care about your kid, you will go above and beyond to do whatever to make them happy, successful,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan on one of his podcasts was mentioning, he said that it's amazing that all of a sudden now he's a parent and he's got one banana left. And he's like, the daughter wants to take the banana. And he's like, you know what? In the past, when he was younger, he would be like, oh, no, it's mine. And
Yeah.
he's like, wait a second. Now all of a sudden I want to, make sure that my my child is successful. Or, in that case, you get the banana. But, it's important that parents hear it from another parent standpoint. Let's talk about, okay, so say you are a single parent. I'm telling you, 90, maybe not 90, but 80% of the parents that are going to watch this or that I run into, it's a broken home. I don't care what happened. Doesn't matter. They'll tell me everything. Oh my God, I'm like a therapist all of a sudden. I don't
Yep.
care. Now it's all about moving forward. So what do we do? Whether the kid is single digits all the way through that teenage years of getting recruited, the question is what do we do now? Right? If I'm dealing with a parent on a recruiting visit, at the end of the visit, the most important thing that I do is I say, hey, listen, do you have questions? Do you have
Yep.
questions for me? I want to make sure that I'm big brother right now. I do have a soul. Like I'm a decent guy, I think. So I want to give them everything that they can to know about our program, where our program's going, and most importantly, how our program can help your, student athlete come and be a part and be successful and get out of here. Because after 2 years, you can get recruited again and you can get out of here. We
Yep.
want you to leave here better than when you showed up. But I want you as a parent to show me that you give a crap about your kid. And a lot of times they don't have questions. I'm like, this is crazy to me, right?
Yeah.
I know I get it, Steve. You give me that look. It's like, but you'd be surprised that when they show up, they don't have questions. And I'm like, I go, listen, let's role play. How about this? Let's role play. If I'm the parent, this is what I'm going to ask. I want to show this coach that I'm involved and I care about my kid, down the road, because sport's only going to last for a short amount of time.
Yes.
And that's what, that's what a lot of these kids don't understand is that, yes, they have the dream, but it's going to end, right? But you have to be able to take your time and go through this process and do things the right way. Sometimes, sorry, man, sometimes I go off on a tangent, but let's talk about from a single parent household. Like I said, it's a majority of the kids and parents. So if you're coming from it from a single parent, God forbid, of course, you're in a situation where a single digit kid all the way to the teenage kid, what are you doing right now, Steve? What are you doing with what's your son's name?
Jax.
Jax. So what are you doing with Jax right here, right now? Coach Z, I'm in this situation. I want to move forward. I think he can do it. I think this is something that he really wants to be passionate about. What should we do? What's the next step?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple. I still think education is the foundation. I think it doesn't matter if you're in a single parent home or not. Your kid's going to have homework. Your kid has to do his schoolwork. That means you're both home. There's no excuse for your kid not to get straight A's. It's no excuse for not to sit at the table with your kid for an hour every day to make sure he gets these A's. It's not that difficult, but most people don't want to do that. So, like for example, my son, he gets straight A's, but not because he works hard, but I sit with him so he understands everything. But now that he gets straight A's, he wants nothing less than that. He's like, if I get a B, it's like failing. So you instill those values early. All that shit transfers over into sports. You know, I don't know how it is in football, but I know in wrestling, the kids who are good wrestlers all get 4.0s. All of them, literally. All these kids in prep school, every single one gets a 4.0, because they all understand they want to go to college to wrestle. It's such a small pool. So when they're accountable with their schoolwork, it makes them accountable in sports. Um, and there's a lot of little things I know parents are going to say, it was bullshit, but, you know, like when COVID happened, for example, I had to stay home with my son. My businesses were shut down, so I had to stay home and be the first grade teacher at the time. School was done at 1 o'clock. We didn't have any homework, obviously, because everything's online. So after school, what do we do? Well, he wants to play Fortnite if he doesn't have sports. That's his thing. It's Fortnite and sports. And I still do this. If he wants to play Fortnite, he has to do 100 push-ups and 100 squats. That's it. So he does five, no, I'm sorry, 5 sets of 20 or 4 sets of 25, whatever, one of the two. And then he's done. So he knows he has to work to get to play to Fortnite. And it's just 100 push-ups and squats. And it's routine now. Obviously, all this stuff is a pain in the ass in the beginning. Even when COVID happened, I had to be a first grade teacher. I literally hated it. I never developed a level of patience like I have now because I was forced to do it. And most parents are impatient with their kids. They want their kids to get it like this. Boom, 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 boom. It's like trying to teach your kid like times tables. For us, we just know it. We forgot there was a time we didn't understand why 4 times 4 is 16. So you have to take steps back to ensure your kid understands these things. And the kid isn't going to push himself, right? If the kid is a wrestler, I shouldn't say wrestler, that's a poor example because wrestlers are very driven people in the first place. But another sport, like let's say baseball, um, you got to force your kid to work out. You got to force your kid to do the right things. So when he's on the field, he's just a better athlete. Most parents aren't doing that. Parents aren't holding their kids accountable for anything. And then you talk about single parent homes. I mean, moms are soft. I'm just going to keep it real. Moms are very nurturing. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to love and cut and coddle. They don't discipline. They don't structure. I was raised on respect. It comes from admiration and fear. So I respected my father because I admired him. I wanted to be him, but I also feared him like crazy. My mom, I admired her, but I didn't fear her. So moms are so scared of like being the bad guy. That's why they always say, I'm gonna get dad, I'm gonna get dad, you know? But if women would just kind of take on that role, because listen, women, moms, when they're watching their kids play a sport on the field, they're usually more savage than the dad. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're like, pull his teeth out, they're crazy. And I love their energy, but they don't have that same energy at home when it comes to structure and discipline.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the missing link with single parent homes. And I understand, like, listen, you're a mom, you have to work two jobs maybe, or you're working all day, you're tired when you come home, and I get it. But I mean, like I said, it's an inconvenience. If you want your kid to excel, you have to put in that time.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for it.
Yeah. You're lagging a little bit.
Still?
Yeah.
I got bars. Hold on. Am I still lagging?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me try this. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Let me try. Okay. How are we now? Refreshed it.
It's still a little bit lagging here. I'll pull you out and put you. You can come back in. You want to do
Okay.
that? Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you hit it on the head. Something that I define things by words, man, because words have a lot of meaning, a lot of power, and I don't think we pay attention to what words are and what they mean.
Yeah.
Me being a biblical person, you look at certain languages, they can have 7 different meanings, right?
Agreed.
But they go deep. They go deep, man. And one word that I always mention to parents, not only kids, but parents, is the power of patience. And you mentioned that. It's got to be that. So if I was to take, Coach Z, what are the 2 most important words that you could tell a kid that could resonate through their whole life that they have to master? Number 1, it's the power of no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also patience.
Yeah.
Because think about it like this. If you look at a young girl, right? She's 12 years old. She gets a breakup in high school or whatever. It's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right? We don't
Yeah.
understand time when we're kids. We're not patient. We don't, oh my God, my life's over. It's like, dude, you're 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? So, and that is part of the parenting aspect because, being involved, they'll come to you versus going to somebody else. Right.
Yep.
So I think that's also one thing that kind of gets overlooked in the fact that your security, your safety, your security for a young daughter, young son, whatever, when something goes bad, they can come to you. They don't have to go to somebody else to, watch TikTok. Taylor Swift gives her advice on something stupid. She don't know who you are. Your dad knows who you are. Your mom knows who you are, right? And so that's why being present is so important. And especially when it comes to these young student athletes. And if we can grab a hold of, like I said, a small percentage, it can really change things because everything, as goes in cycles. And and I really believe if you can start local and get rolling, man, things can really, really change. But let's fast forward. Let's fast forward into. We'll dive into strength conditioning real quick because I'm a big strength
Yeah,
conditioning guy.
same.
So I work with our guys, and we're very regimented. We're really, we get on them pretty hard. They have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If that is the goal, if you're wanting to go and become XYZ at the highest level, not just
Yep.
the baseline level, there are certain things you have to do. There's a requirement, right? It's a consistent thing all year round, in season, out of season, postseason, preseason, and even therapy. You get banged up, you have to be in the trainer room. You got to get taped. You got to do all these different things. You got the modalities, whatever. Let's talk about getting better
Yeah.
let's talk about getting better off the field from a physical standpoint, right? And what Steve, if you, okay, so now you're a strength coach, right? You're the head strength coach of Alabama. What are you doing with these guys to get them better now I'm talking like X's and O's per se, right? Bench press. I don't, but what are you going to do? Like break down your philosophy for a young student athlete
Yep.
moving forward.
Yeah. As far as like training, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great question because I've dealt with this with the three that I train. So two wrestlers and one kid who plays baseball. Now these prep schools, right? As you know, they have the best resources. These are schools that cost like $50,000 a year. They get to recruit, you get scholarships. So these kids, they go into the strength room or their training facility within their school,
Yeah.
and they're given their protocols or their modalities, like you say, on their app. So big Monday you have to do this, Tuesday you gotta do this, Wednesday you gotta do this, and the modalities are great. They're very sport specific and they're great movements, but these kids don't know how to train hard. They know how to get through the workout, but mentally they don't know that they're only actually going 60% or 70% and not like 90 or 100. So when they come and see me, I maul them. Like literally no one even makes it through. I'll even train with them sometimes and they're like, holy shit, I can't believe I just train like this. Wrestlers get it a little bit easier compared to, I have this kid Jeter that his father's a friend of mine. He plays for Choate, which is a here prep school in Connecticut. He's a sophomore. He just got a commit. He didn't commit, but he got recruited by BC D1 baseball. They all want him to put on like 15 more pounds. He weighs like 160. They want him at like 175 as a pitcher at that age. So I'm helping him gain weight. I'm helping him train properly. So I started training him 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And he literally quits every single time because he's not used to that intensity of training. And he's like, dude, like he said, I don't understand what's wrong with me. And I'm like, listen, I said, your workouts at school are great. I'm looking at the things that you have to do. They're so specific for baseball, and that's amazing. But when you come see me, it's judgment day. I'm putting you through a circuit so you do quit, so you do fail. And every time they fail, and when the session is over, you know how excited they are for the next one? Like this kid Jeter was like, dude, I can't believe I'm training like this. He threw up outside, and then he's like, are we doing it next week? Because he never understood this is how you're supposed to train. This is how you're supposed to feel. Even though you don't need to train at that intensity for baseball, I want him to do it as, listen, I train guys like they're in fight camp. So I said, listen, if you can get this mental part down, it's going to transfer to everything else in your life. So this is why we train this hard. He's like, dude, I can't wait till next Saturday, but I love that. And I think, again, that's where parents fail, more so than coaches. Parents don't push their kids to reach their fullest potential. Parents put a ceiling on their kids and they think, oh my God, he can't get straight A's. He shouldn't have to stay for 4 hours, or, um, oh, he's tired today, or oh, he doesn't have to go to practice. No, like you don't understand. These kids are savages. This 16-year-old kid has so much testosterone going through his blood right now that you tap into that, the kid turns into a monster. And these kids love it. They love to feel accomplished. They love to like have that ego and that pride, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just got through this. But most parents want to coddle. They don't want to push their kids to reach those heights.
Why is it important? Why is the question I always ask
Mm.
parents and kids is, I'm like, so why do you think it's important? Why do you think that this training aspect, why are we doing this? What's
Yeah.
the point? You know, and obviously you're going to hear it, oh, well, you know, you're getting bigger, faster, stronger, or whatever. But the point is kids nowadays, you have to explain to them before they do it, right? I mean, a lot of kids, you know, you just don't like wrestlers are like completely different. What am I trying to say? They're a completely different breed. But at the end of the day, everybody else, the other 90%, they want, well, I'm not sure why I should do it or whatever. Got to explain it to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can still be hard on them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the way that I explain it, right, is the same way you probably would explain as far as why it's important. We'll have guys that'll show up. They won't tell us anything because they don't want to, you know, I don't know, hurt their status on the team. We'll recruit a kid in there. We're not like the NFL. We obviously don't do MRIs and, you know, all that because we're not
Yeah.
investing millions of dollars, you know. But, you know, kids, I mean, we'll recruit them, say in January, February, they'll come rolling in the summertime. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you know, I went and benched over at 24-hour fitness and my shoulder bothered me. I'm like, how'd you do that? It's like, well, you know, I've had problems for a while. Like, what? Why don't you tell us this kind of stuff? Because now
Yep.
it's like we can't help you and put you in a, now you're done for the year. Now you might have to have some sort of a labrum, you know,
Yeah.
outpatient procedure or whatever. So I bring that up to say, why is it important for a young student athlete with resources or not? Almost every school has some sort of, I wouldn't call it a facility, but just a gym or whatever. So talk to those that have very little resources as far as from the physical aspect. How can they get better in the weight room, and why are we doing this, and how can they get better?
Yeah. Psychologically, a child, a kid, whatever, is going to do the bare minimum. It's a fact.
Yeah.
They're going to do the bare minimum to hopefully get straight A's. They're going to do the bare minimum at practice to hopefully start. It's the kids that go above and beyond. They're doing all that shit on their own off the field are the ones who excel. There's kids that are studying X's and O's. You know, they're watching tape. My brother watched tape. He's in high school. You know, wrestlers are literally training. Like, there's a big difference between a kid who wrestles like in high school only, and it's only one season a year, compared to the kids that are doing 4 seasons every season. So what I do in 1 year is going to take you 4 years. So you'll never catch up to me. So I also believe this day and age, you know, in my era, maybe a little bit different, but now, and you might disagree, because I know a lot of people do in sports, is I think that whatever your kid loves as a sport, you got to go all in on it. Leave all the other sports alone. So if he
Right.
loves football, you make that kid play football all year round, or baseball, whatever it is. Soccer, like soccer is all year round too. Fall, you know, spring, fall, summer, indoor soccer, and then let that kid excel. Because the problem with a lot of sports now is a kid will play football, then they'll play basketball, then they'll play the next sport, and he didn't play football for a whole year. You like you're
Yeah.
going backwards to go back forward, backwards to go back forward. Dude, just pick one sport that your kid loves and just focus on it. And if you have any extra, do the strength and conditioning work. You can do that stuff too, but one sport, man.
Well, it's interesting you say that because we get too complex, right? Our philosophies, our mentalities, we've got all these special gadgets and all this crap out there. You know, it's
Yeah.
what this is. We train with this heart monitor, we train with this
Yes.
device and all this crap. I'm old school, man. I
Me
love
too.
interviews with guys like Don Fry. You know, shout out to Don Fry from the old school MMA days, because when he'd have interviews or anybody would talk about him, it was showing up and getting it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, there's a time where you're going to, you know, talk about technique and doing whatever, but where we lose where we lose, that's probably the best way to put it, where we lose is that we forget the essence of each sport and what it's all about. It's about getting on the field and just playing, right?
Yep.
Chael Sonnen said something. I'm a big MMA guy like you, but he said that the most important thing with UFC is the fighting part of it, right? And so just getting in there and just fighting and grinding it out, because I got news for you. When you get into round 4 and you're tired,
Exactly.
there's no technique, there's no all that stuff. So you have to be able to go to those deep waters and understand that it's like, right, let's go back to the original, foundation of what we're trying to do here, right?
Yeah,
And
like in foot, like because you're in football. Football is the prime example of football. Are the guys, the quarterbacks, who anytime they have the ball in the 2 minute drill and they're losing, and they always seem to win every single time, whether it's Pat Mahomes or Tom Brady. Those guys are doing X's and O's. So when it comes time for those pressure moments, that's when they shine. There's so many people that are so talented, but when moments like that happen, the talent goes out the window because they're not fully prepared for it. And most
yeah,
kids are not prepared for those moments. So you're really pushing them through that. So you have to dig deeper than they've ever had to dig is so important for those pressure moments.
yeah. No, and that is, yeah. And like I said, and with the strength work, it's, that's just one aspect of it, but that's one thing that can definitely take you above and beyond being just a good athlete to a very, very good, I won't say great, but very
Yeah.
good. And it puts your body physically, your joints and everything in a balance, in a position and flexibility. I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of kids that I see today, obviously because they're on their butts all the time, sitting and doing nothing, you have a lot of inflexible kids.
Yeah.
Therefore, you create, you're going from one extreme to going on a field, which is very rotational, and then boom, there's an injury. They're
Yeah.
lazy. We won't get into that, but
Dude, the
that
wrestlers, dude, the wrestlers who, and this is something I regret not doing when my son was young because I was so busy. There was a time where work was more important than my son or my family because I'm hunting, hunting, hunting. It was first like 4 or 5 years, the wife's at home. But oh my God, I forgot I was going with this. No.
the next thing.
Sorry, camera. I
the,
was I was going somewhere with it. Oh yeah, no. So the kids that are young that start with gymnastics are the ones who are the best developed. They're the most flexible. Their muscles are the best developed. They have body awareness, and those guys transfer into wrestling. Dude, it's so crazy the difference in skill set just because you did gymnastics. And that's another thing I think all kids should do.
Yeah, I think not to go down a rabbit hole, but I think when it comes to injury prevention
Yeah.
and development of a young student athlete, one of the most important things is to just get on a trampoline, just work on balance,
Lymphatic
work on
system, baby. Yeah.
coordination.
Yep.
We don't. I mean, it blows. Like even if you go to a PT office when people are repairing whatever, they have those tiny little.
Yeah. And just little bounces. That's it.
So you're really, yeah. So, and that's my thing. That's part of the reason why, you're talking about specializing in a sport. That's why I like kids, especially when they're younger, to experience different sports because you're
Yeah.
building different, aspects of just their physical body, the nature of it, their, spatial awareness and, different things of that nature. So, that development going through, but, when there's a young kid that comes to me and has all these injuries, the first thing that comes to my mind, I won't dig too deep into this, but it really is one of those things where why is everybody doing the same thing? Now, you do have an issue with resources. You have an
Yep.
issue with time, with parents wanting to be a part. They don't know nothing. They just want to help and be a part of it. And, you're dealing with that aspect. But why can't we go to a seminar? Why can't we talk to guys like Steve Orosco, stuff like that, to where we don't have to just do CrossFit for everything, because it's just, kids are developing at a fast rate, and it's really interesting because when you do get around a kid that's very dedicated, he'll do whatever you tell him. You are the expert. And I think that we have a responsibility, not only as a parent, as a coach, or a person that they look up to do the right thing. You may think you know the right thing from back in the 70s when you were working out. You know what I'm saying? Guys tell me, oh, when I had a guy tell me the other day, oh, I was 4% body fat. I was all these things. I'm like, I don't care about that. How does that, it's like the bench, all that kind of stuff. It's like, let's get back to performance. Let's get back to the basics and hard work.
Yeah.
I like I said, I grew up in a small town, so I was always carrying an axe or chainsaws and tires and things of that nature. And I'm not doing curls, I'm not doing whatever. You've heard of old man strength, dude. Some of the strongest people have never had injuries, have been people from the woods and from the farms, and people that mechanics. Dude, go grab some of your wrestlers and shake their hands because they're so judo guys, because they're gripping. And I tell you this, I believe personally that grip strength will prevent injuries. It will make you a better athlete, right? In every aspect, just grip strength.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the grip obviously is connected to the central nervous system, the spine, the neck, the stability, all that stuff. So anyway, you get me fired up. We'll have to do this again. We'll talk this about
Dude, I'm down. I'm always down. Like I said, I've made my schedule kind of in a way where it's around my son. Because again, it's such a small window, bro, like 10 to 17. I got 7 years with him and he's gone. And I don't want to miss any of it, not for any amount of money. And, and he is a little privileged in the fact that, I can train people, I can hold mitts for him, I can wrestle with him, I can do strength conditioning. So he has someone he can emulate, because I still do all the same thing. I got a little black eye today from sparring. I'm still training, 43 years old, but, I'm trying to live to overtime, 100 and plus.
Yeah. No, I 100%, I get it. And listen, I got to put you on the hot seat before we get out of here.
Okay.
All right. I know your time is very valuable, and so, but I got to put you on the hot seat. I got 5 questions that are going to be funny, and I think you get them. So, question number 1: what is tougher, wrestling practice or being a politician?
Politician. Is dirty. And just the way you get attacked mentally, because you can't do anything bad. You can't fight back. The thing about wrestling is, which is why I also hated football. Football is like you get hit and it's over. You get hit and it's over. Whereas wrestling is, or MMA, any combat sport, you're getting hit, but you get to return fire. So it's just a different feeling. Politicians, man, you can't really return fire because the people attacking you will eat you alive if you do.
Yeah. Well, and think about it in wrestling too. If you're on the bottom and you're tired and you can't do nothing, you're stuck. Yeah. You have to mentally find a way out, either in a good way out or a way to get the hell out of here.
True
story. What I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So question number 2, a better place to live. And you got to be careful on this one. LA or San Diego?
Wow. Those LA and San Diego are such opposite places to live. It's wild. I'm going to say, oh my God, this is such a tough one because San Diego is such a good place in my heart. But for sports and entertainment, LA is better for sure.
Okay.
It depends. You either want to live fast paced or chill. Which one is it? San Diego is so much more chill than Los Angeles. I like a little bit of the hustle and bustle.
So if you're a parent, like you're a family person, probably San Diego, right? A little bit more San Diego.
Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah.
100%.
Question number 3: who was a better Hulk? All right, Lou Ferrigno,
Don't say that.
or or Edward Norton?
Damn. I
You
was like,
knew I was gonna say that.
don't say Ed Norton, please.
Ah,
Hopefully you're gonna say the other guy.
Banta.
What's his name? Is it Banner? No.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like
Bruce
yeah.
Banner. Yeah, I'm not a fan of him. I wish you kind of said him. I think Ed Norton is probably the better Hulk, but Lou's always gonna be my favorite Hulk.
Hey, I say the same thing about Norton. That guy.
Dude,
And by
that
the way,
guy's he what?
Yeah, Hickson's on that.
Okay.
Gracie. Did you know
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
You know that?
No, no.
Hickson Gracie. Remember when they're training to get ready to be the Hulk or whatever? They're doing breathing techniques.
Oh, got it. Okay, with Ed?
Edward Norton, yeah.
Oh
He
shit,
was
I'm gonna
with
have to look that up.
Hickson. Yeah,
Okay.
man. I can't believe I just got you on the Hulk question.
You got
Dang.
me. Yeah, I
I won't tell
know.
anybody about that. That's
Yeah, please don't.
geez. All right. Question number 4. Who do you trust more? Mike O'Hearn or Martin Looney?
Michael Hearn, baby. That's my guy.
Oh man. I heard he's one Mr. Prankster. So
Yeah, he's awesome though. He's a so my I would say this, my favorite people on the planet are the humble savages. You know, the ones that like, they're very humble, they're low key, they're mellow, but when the light turns on, you flip that switch, they're boom, the alter ego comes out. So Mike's one of those guys for sure. He's
well,
just
he's
he's
a
like
North. I'm
he's like
sorry. Go ahead.
kind, he's kind and gentle, just a nice guy, do anything for you. But when it's time to fucking roll, it's serious business.
Bro, he's not to go off on a tangent. He's got a really good story. He's actually from the Northwest.
Yep.
But he's got a real interesting story. And yeah, I'd have to run into him sometime and chat him up because it's all about stories, right? It's
Yeah.
experiences, it's stories. We all keep moving forward with each other's stories and inspirations. So,
You know what's
all
crazy
right,
about
last.
him, real
Sorry, go ahead.
quick, is
Yeah.
like, we were talking, and I remember he also posted a picture about it. The difference from like 1995 to now was like 8 pounds, and it's like people forget that when you get to a certain age, it's about preserving because you lose so much with age. So just a prime
Yeah.
example of, you're going to be 54 years old. This is what you got to do. It's not about gaining anymore. It's about preserving what you have so you can keep on going.
Yeah. Usain Bolt has a very famous quote. He said he spent 30 plus years to run 9 seconds,
Yeah, that's a great one. That's right. I've seen that. And it's the truth. It's the
right?
truth.
Waking up at 4 in the morning to train, doing all that kind of stuff. So it's huge. All right. And last question. All right. Final question. I want you to really dig deep into this one. What's one thing about you, Steve Orosco, that people don't know anything about? You've never. I want juice.
Wrestling related. Um, I mean, I don't want to say it's digging deep, but I never talk about this. My freshman year in high school, went against returning state champion. I got pinned in 9 seconds. Literally broke the record. So I got the L record of all time. I think in my high school, it's so crazy, so crazy. I think about it all the time. I'm like, if I could run anything back, that's the one.
The Ben Askren of wrestling.
Oh my god, man.
Yeah.
That's an embarrassing one.
Well,
So I don't even talk about it. But
well, it's funny because, and I know I'm asking you these questions, but most people, like I always tell them, like, give me something awkward, give me something that's different. And like for me, most people, I never tell them this, but it's actually benefited me later on because I wanted to meet girls in college, and so I learned how to ballroom dance.
oh shit, that's a good one. That's smart.
Yeah, and and then it was like country swing and all this other stuff. But people, they're like, and then I come to find out, it's like, God, ladies are really into this type of thing. So,
Yeah.
uh, but well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I know we went over the
Absolutely.
mark, but listen, we'll catch up here soon. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. And once again, our brand is all about blessing you, the viewer, in regards to preparing your student athlete to getting to the next level, or following your passion, your dream, being motivated, inspired, as well as you parents. We want to put you in a position to where you can be always a better parent, but a better parent for your student athlete. And so we can get as much success out of them as possible. And once again, thank you, Steve. And always remember, it's not about you. It's not about us. It's about you. So see you guys on the next episode.